Okay, so this next exercise that I'm going to do is actually not an exercise that I put on the website in the training, in the materials for you to look at. And I did this because I want you all to feel free. If you have an activity or something that you'd like to do with the kids that you are really passionate about, I'd really like you to do that. So this one is called the Cyber Founding Person. I have a quote here. Actually, it's a term called emergent democracy, and it deals with the internet and how it deals with censorship. And I have my founding father wig here, and I use this. The kids are I'm going to read through the quote with the kids, and then they're going to talk about it. And the person who's talking has to wear the founding father wig in order to sound and look like a founding father. Because the idea here is that because this is a new look at an idea like censorship, we need cyber founding people. Okay, so this is, what I have here is a description of a term called emergent democracy, which is a possible side effect of blogging and social networking. The idea is that old media makes societies more aristocratic since discussions are controlled by whoever controls the media, while blogging, since anyone can do it, turns over control of political discussion to people at large. Example of emergent democracy would be when Trent Lott praised Strom Thurmond's 1948 segregationist campaign for the presidency. Bloggers reacted intensely, though conventional journalists had ignored the comment. The story became widely circulated, and the outrage against Lott's comments led to Lott's resignation as majority leader. This is a good example of emergent democracy because there was no directed movement to respond to Lott's comments. The response occurred naturally, and its political consequences were not intentional. They were emergent. The idea is that in a democracy, whoever decides what people talk about determines what the government will do. Therefore, when people at large decide for themselves what they'll talk about, they also control their own political action. And so what we're going to do right now is we're going to have a quick discussion because this is about online censorship. We're going to talk real quickly. I'm going to elicit some discussion from the kids by asking the question, how might online censorship affect this idea of emergent democracy? And any student who has an idea can either wear or hold the founding person wig.
All right. How might online censorship affect emergent democracy? If the mainstream media is talking mainly about candidate qualifications and not focusing on issues, online censorship could reinforce that and take away the opportunity for people to focus on issue-oriented campaigns as opposed to personality or, let's see, I guess I'd call it celebrity-focused campaigns.
I would agree. I think we've seen the impact on a campaign on the internet, I think, really came into its own this year. If you look at, whether or not you agree with either of these people politically, I think the Obama campaign and Ron Paul's campaign both were examples of using the internet, and I think censorship would have really affected how those campaigns developed if they were censored on the net by whatever means. So, anybody else want to take a try?
Another aspect of this emergent democracy, though, is the first campaign that really used the internet was Howard Dean. Was that 4 years ago? Or was it 8 years ago?
8 years ago.
8 years ago, and he was really the leader there. But it was his online, it was the online community that really brought it to the end. If you remember that howl,
yep. And
it was just played over and over until the mainstream media picked it up.
Right.
So this was kind of a downside to it, where one of the deleterious effects of this emergent democracy was when it was played up to the point where it was almost unfair that one little moment, that one little bit of celebration brought his campaign to an end.
Right. It probably would have been something he would have liked to have censored.
Yeah.
So, yeah, absolutely. So, and anybody else want to give it a quick try?
Thank you. Thank you.
Any comments about censorship and emergent democracy?
Yeah, okay. I guess that my concern with this, would the government could go online and just take away whatever they didn't want people to know and just manipulate the news that people got, and people wouldn't be able to make informed decisions because they wouldn't have all the information, or the information they did have would be very extremely biased, and that would probably be my main word.
Yeah, it's interesting that the idea of censorship, where kids today are going to have a very different idea about censorship because they're so free to say whatever they want to basically the world because of digital technologies. And I think that's interesting that they may have very different feelings about censorship today than we did, growing up, who had a much more limited scope in terms of who we could talk to. So anyway, that's the idea here, a little prop comedy to get the kids interested.